This week on the Travel Show, I'm in a city that spans 2 continents and 3,000 years of history.
Oh, cold water.
Also on this week's Travel Show, we're shaking things up in Singapore. We're at a bar in London where the stereo costs more than a house.
If you like music, it will blow your mind.
And our global guru tackles a choice of rail, road or plane.
Take the train.
Istanbul really is a city like no other. Built on the banks of the mighty Bosphorus Strait, it was founded by the Greeks who named it Byzantium. Later the Romans made it the capital of their Eastern Empire, changing its name to Constantinople in honor of the Emperor Constantine. And for over 500 years, it was the seat of power for the sultans who ruled the Ottoman Empire. Built at the crossroads of Europe and Asia, it's Turkey's largest and best-known city. So I got in on the red-eye flight, which is about 11 hours from Singapore, but had a bit of a rest. Now I'm ready to explore the city. So I'm going to meet up with a man called SERDAR, who promises to take me around. Following a spate of terrorist attacks and the failed military coup, 2016 was dubbed the year that tourists forgot Turkey. Traditionally, around 10 million people visit Istanbul every year, but those numbers have fallen drastically. Now the city is keen to do all it can to reassure tourists and entice them back. How are you? You must be SERDAR. Good to meet you finally. Thank you very much. So what have you got planned for me?
Well, I'll help you in exploring the city. I'll take you to some of the major sites, try some different food, Turkish food, and also a hammam, which is a Turkish bath. But I don't know if you would like to start up with a freshen up.
I think that might be good. I've got a little bit of Bristol coming in, 5 o'clock shadow.
Let's go to the barbers there.
So this area is quite... Tucked down many side streets here in Istanbul, you'll find plenty of old-school barbers like this one, where you can get a haircut or a traditional shave with a cutthroat razor and hot towels, all at a knockdown price. Dating back to the days when many homes in Istanbul had no running water, they're still popular with the locals who come here to meet, socialize and freshen up.
I get a little bit worried about the deck. Now, this is something I haven't experienced, a nostril haircut.
So this is the way to take the little hair
Baby hair.
that you probably even can't see. He's burning the hair in the ears.
I can smell.
Yes.
How do I look? Much better? Brand new man? As the center of the Ottoman Empire for around 500 years, Istanbul's wealth and influence grew, and each new ruler or sultan was keen to leave his mark on the city. SERDAR has offered to show me perhaps one of the most impressive.
This is the Mosque of SHEINMAN. SHEINMAN was the emperor, Ottoman emperor that ruled for 47 years. This is the biggest imperial mosque in Istanbul. These mosques that are financed by the Sultan at the time, they are all built in 7 years. This stands on the slopes of the hill, so from most parts of the city, you can see this mosque.
Napoleon once said that if all the world were one country, then this city would be its capital. And running through the heart of Istanbul is the mighty Bosphorus. On one side sits Europe, on the other, Asia. And for thousands of years, it's carried cargo and passengers between the two, and also served as a gateway between the Black Sea and the Mediterranean, making this one of the most important stretches of water in the world. And nice view as well.
Yes.
Tragically, it was here on the banks of the Bosphorus that the terrorists struck on New Year's Eve 2016, when they attacked an open-air nightclub. It was just the latest in a series of incidents that shook confidence and badly affected the city's already struggling tourist industry. But SERDAR says that he's hopeful that things will improve.
Well, those very unfortunate attacks made everybody scared, you know, it scared us as well. It scared the people who are thinking of coming here. So the only way I think we can overcome this is not be scared and continue our lives. That will be the first starting point, I think, for things to get better.
Istanbul isn't the only capital city that has suffered a downturn because of terrorism. Hotels and restaurants in Paris were badly affected following a spate of attacks there, which kept tourists away, although things are slowly improving. People here in Istanbul hope that the introduction of a new tourist police force will help to rebuild confidence, and a number of hotels are also offering substantial discounts to encourage travelers to return.
Henry, this is the spice market, built in 16th century for trading of spices.
I can smell all of that spice in the air. It's making me a little bit hungry, actually.
Well, I should introduce you maybe to my friend here,
Hello.
long-time friend Tuba.
Hi,
She's a
Tuba.
food writer. She's gonna introduce you traditional Turkish cheeses.
Perfect. I have the best company.
Yes.
I'll see you soon then.
Okay.
This place is
Amazing.
isn't it?
Yeah, it's always packed like this. Yeah.
Wow, look at that choice.
Yeah.
And all of this is from Turkey, is it?
These are all from Turkey, different regions, different cities, and they all have different textures, different tastes. So this is from Çanakkale. This is called Ezine Beyaz Peynir. It's like our main staple for breakfast. So this is our most favorite cheese.
Right. So breakfast cheese, I would imagine it being a little bit kind of lighter on the flavor, a little bit sort of easier to
We
taste.
never like
No?
flavor with cheeses.
All right.
No, the real ones.
Totally wrong. This next cheese actually reminds me of like a Parmesan or something like that.
This one is made in July when we have the southwest winds. So it's like the lost milk that they produce. I know it's
These little details,
ones,
aren't they?
yeah.
Just
And-
change the profiles.
Yeah, and this one is usually made around springtime. So they're made exactly the same, but they have different texture, different taste.
I think this is probably one of my favorites, actually.
Yeah, you should eat this with some crunchy bread.
Yeah, bit of olive oil.
A little bit.
I can imagine
Yeah.
some olives, perhaps.
Perhaps, why not? Tomatoes even.
When in Rome,
Yeah, when in Rome.
delicious.
When in Istanbul.
Istanbul, exactly.
As my day comes to an end here in Istanbul, SERDAR tells me that he's got one last treat in store for me. We're off to one of the oldest Turkish baths or hammams in the city.
Well, come in, Henry.
This is rather grand, isn't it?
First opened in the 16th century, it's built on a site that dates back to Roman times. That is beautiful, but actually the first thing you really notice is that thickness in the air. It's so humid in here. Cold water! It's got what looks to be a pillow sack. It's just filled it with air and soapy water, and once you kind of squeeze it out, these suds come out. I've enjoyed my day here in Istanbul. Its history, food, and culture are remarkable. But for me, it's perhaps its location which makes it special. On the border between Europe and Asia, there's undeniably something beguiling about a place that's seen so much change during its almost 3,000 years of history, but remains unique whatever current problems it may face. Next on the travel show, the first in a series of films exploring the food and drink of my hometown, Singapore. We're starting with a taste of its most famous drink, the Singapore Sling.
My name is Leslie Denker. I'm the resident historian of Raffles Hotel. And I've been with this hotel for the last 45 years. Singapore was founded by Sir Stamford Raffles, and we have been under the British administration. We are a British colony. So most of the British here came to Raffles Hotel for their meals and for their drinks. They will meet here very, very often. The British young men will sit under the cast iron veranda, drinking their whiskey, water, gin and tonic. But the British ladies were not supposed to be seen drinking alcoholic beverages in public. The bartender, Nyam Tong Boon, saw this. He said, I must do something for the ladies. He did some experiments here and there. Finally reached a conclusion, used gin, clear liquid, cherry herring liqueur, Cointreau, Benedictine, pineapple juice, lime juice, dash Angostura bitters, and he used the grenadine to give the pink hue. It was created in 1915. We just celebrated the 100 years anniversary in 2015. Actually, it's camouflage drink, you know. Because of the grenadine, a bit sweet taste, sweet, but there, if you take more and more slings, then you will have the fling.
Still to come on this week's travel show. We're pulling the plug on modern tech to listen to music the old-fashioned way.
This is like I've just flown first class. Why would I want to go back to economy now?
Welcome to the slice of the show that tackles your questions about getting the best out of travel. Coming up, Memphis to New Orleans by train, plane or automobile, and the best European city break at Christmas. But first, John Kay asks,
we're planning our second trip to South Africa this summer and want a beach location as well as a trip to the Kruger. We were considering Mauritius, but have also looked at Mozambique. Do you have any recommendations?
Even though Mauritius is south of the equator, it's at its best in the northern summer, and it's easily combined with South Africa thanks to frequent flights from both London and Johannesburg. But I think Mozambique is also very accessible and equally rewarding. The eastern boundary of South Africa's Kruger National Park is the international frontier between South Africa and Mozambique. Head for the capital, Maputo, one of the more attractive big cities in Africa. Then go northeast along the coast to some of the Indian Ocean's loveliest beaches, without the crowds you get at more traditional destinations. Accommodation is improving all the time and prices are pleasingly low. From London, Michelle Abels asks,
in the summer, we need to travel from Memphis to New Orleans. Should we go by train, plane or automobile?
Michelle, take the train. The distance between these two great cities is almost 400 miles. You'd imagine there'd be direct flights between Memphis and New Orleans, but I can't find any. And a connection via Atlanta would involve a big detour. The road journey is straightforward, due south along the I-55 freeway and takes 6 or 7 hours. But it's not one of the great American drives, and when you arrive in New Orleans, the parking can be challenging. So instead, I recommend the train south from Memphis at 6:50 any morning you like. The city of New Orleans rolling down beside the Mississippi for most of the day and arriving, in theory at least, under 9 hours later. And you can experience the marvellous American Railroad for as little as $49, available on most days if you book in advance. Finally, Mrs. Shaker tweets from Aberdeen to ask about a Christmas trip.
Where would be a good place to go for a European city break between the 23rd and 27th of December? We thought Amsterdam or Prague.
Amsterdam is my choice because the wonderful RIJKSMUSEUM is open every day of the year. In many other cities, the 25th of December along with the 1st of January are days off. Christmas Day is an excellent time to see the collection without the usual crowds, and for my money, the finest distillation of the golden age on the planet, with Rembrandt's Night Watch rightly getting pride of place. Elsewhere in the city, many shops will be closed on Christmas Day, but in all the usual tourist areas, most cafes and restaurants will be open and suitably festive. In terms of getting there, Amsterdam has excellent links from across Europe, and you'll also be able to travel around happily. Dutch Railways operates the same basic schedule every day of the year, and most city transport will also be working. Whether you're watching in Washington or Ouagadougou, the Travel Show is here to help. So email your question to theTravelShow@bbc.co.uk and I'll do my very best to find you an answer. From me, Simon Calder, the Global Guru, bye for now and see you next time.
Finally on the Travel Show, we're all used to storing and streaming almost endless amounts of music on our phones. But this week, Tommy Sandu's searching out places in London where the records themselves take centre stage.
Tommy Sandu
on BBC Asian Network.
This is the wonderful Gurdas Man with Bindi Savir. 81869 on the text. So, when I'm not on the Travel Show, this is my Monday to Friday. I play songs on national radio and talk in between. Now, the music that I play comes from a server. There are some decks over there, but I hardly use them. And when I'm on my way into the radio show, I listen to music on my phone. But today, I'm going to meet some people who believe that music should be appreciated and enjoyed the old-fashioned way.
The UK's at the centre of a global revival in vinyl music. Last year, sales of LPs rose here by more than 50%. But why? Is the old tech really better than the new? This is Gearbox Records, a studio where they use vintage kit from the 60s to make records today.
This retro equipment all works, it's not a museum, so that we are producing sounds from analog and from digital, which are really as best as one can do at the moment. So we're mixing the best of ancient and modern to create the best sound.
Because normally you hear people saying, oh, vinyl is best. You know, and for sound quality, you won't get better than vinyl.
When we do A/B between analog and digital in here, almost everyone can tell the difference. The music sounds slightly more bound together. Digital's quite crystalline and immediately quite beguiling, but over time I think it's easier to listen to vinyl.
I'm on my way now to a place in King's Cross with a classic bit of vinyl as well, because I've heard that this place has got a money no object attitude towards its sound system. They've installed a £500,000 stereo system. I've got to check that out.
We went into this with a no-compromise approach. If it is going to improve the sound, we've gone for it. And that's at every level. That's the amplifiers, the speakers, the cartridges.
So it's for geeks. It's a lot of money being spent on geeks kind of going, oh, that sound quality that's coming out. I mean, come on.
There's an element of that, and the equipment is off the scale. It's in deep audiophile territory, so you're unlikely to ever hear anything or sound or see anything like this in public. But if you like music, it will blow your mind.
For you I was a flame. Love is a losing game. 5-story fire.
If you close your eyes and just focus on one of the instruments, you can hear just that in absolute clarity. It's like you can move your way around through the band.
What I wish I never played.
This is like I've just flown first class. Why would I want to go back to economy now? I've just experienced the good life. I don't want to go back. Just leave me here.
Love is a losing game.
Now, I've always thought that music is best when it's a shared experience. You think of a concert or a nightclub dance floor. Nothing beats it. But there's a bunch of people that get together In one of London's coolest neighbourhoods, Dalston, and they do it in different cities around the world, and they listen to an entire album on vinyl from start to finish in silence.
Well, I love vinyl. I've been collecting records for, I don't want to tell you how many decades, but for a very long time. I wouldn't say it's all about audio, it's really about the music.
Okay.
It's always the music first and foremost. So
Right.
people want to come hear one of their favorite albums or an album they don't even know because they want to experience it in a different way. They want to hear the story behind it. They want to get its musical context. They want to share the listening experience with other people. They also want to take some time out of their week where they can just sit back, turn their phone off, and just listen to music.
Well, actually, I've been kind of often listen to music that has a lot of memories for me when I was growing up, and also it's really unusual to sit and just really listen to an album these days. So normally you kind of might listen to a song or something, but to listen to an album from start to finish and just really focus on that is a real treat.
I think it's good to listen to it with other people too. That's why people go to live performances. It's quite interesting to go to. It's like going to the cinema, really, isn't it?
1967 was a completely transformative year in rock and pop. Piper at the Gates of Dawn by Pink Floyd drew upon Wind in the Willows, which Piper at the Gates of Dawn is named after, one of the chapters in that book.
In the same way you might go to a taster menu in a restaurant for the flavours or to a gallery for some art. People are here gathered together to share the music and be stimulated through their ears.
Tomorrow, I'll be back playing songs off of a computer server. But as for today, I've never heard music sound quite so alive as it does on these records.
Well, I'm afraid that's all the time we have for this week. But coming up next week, Krista heads to Chile to visit the Pacific Coast town, which was devastated by a tsunami and earthquake 7 years ago, but has now been rebuilt and reborn and is welcoming tourists. Catch that if you can, but for me, Henry Golding, and the rest of the Travel Show team here in Turkey, it's goodbye.